What is going on, my people? Welcome back to the channel for another album review. I'm your boy Nassim the Dream. If you're new to the channel, just go right on ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell as well to always keep notified on my newest content. And today I will be reviewing the new Father John Misty album, Chlöe, in the next 20th century. Folk, singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, record producer Josh Tillman is out with his brand new record to add to his collection, Chlöe in the next 20th century. Following this record, we received the 2018 LP God's Favorite Customer, a record following a lot of personal tellings about Tillman's life going on with some depression into this record. Then before this record, what we received is probably my favorite LP from Father John Misty and probably one of his best to ever come out, his 2017 record, Pure Comedy. This was a record that can be found to be pretty brutally honest when it comes to the current state of humanity, where we're really at, pretty much with everything that really goes on in the current state of the world, where this record practically predicts our demise due to our actions that must go with consequence. And that's probably my biggest reason for really loving this album so much, obviously because of the musical quality to it, but the notions like these are just, they're the best ones to me because no one ever wants to talk about them. Josh is just pointing out a lot of the problems matching the sonic ability with the record that comes unquestionably as a fantastic statement into folk music, one that I greatly love and appreciate. Based off my understanding and timely research off of Josh, most of his work and creations come off from two very important things: film and dreams. Now, with that said, it is also very important to state how those two things really go into the creativity and notions that Josh really puts into his music. With this particular LP, I would say those influences create a lot of the arrangements and why they're set up like this. Like with the intro track Chlöe, although it is placed at the beginning, it's actually foreshadowed to be the end of the record. The sounds blowing of a wind of a traditional 20s pop, fitting enough to make the intro to a family soap opera or just some kind of old-time film. Feeling much of the kind of ballroom music you would expect to hear from the 1920s through the 50s. And films like that most of the time are pretty exciting, especially during the times, and well executed like this, but I'm gonna be honest, I feel like the narrative for this project is just all over the place. I'm even more confused with the track Olvidado, Otro Momento when I read in a Pitchfork article that pointing out he's speaking Spanish over this bossa nova piece when it really should be singing in Portuguese, because that's not a major margin for error, but something about this track increases the confusion of what the narrative might even entail. Buddy's Rendezvous seems to recollect the memories of a woman that doesn't really seem to be close to this father figure that Tillman is portraying. Based off the lyricism, even tells lies to people at a pizzeria that their relationship is great when it practically isn't even there at all. Sonically, this can be described as a Baroque pop ballad. Like this one makes me feel like I'm sitting in the country club enjoying a fine wine and dine. We Could Be Strangers as what seemed to be a dream of two people getting into a deadly car crash that also seems to be some kind of short romance. More romance now shows up onto the song Kiss Me, I Loved You, displaying of what pop music was all about in the beginning of its time. The pianos, the symphonic layers, the saxophones, the easygoing drums, they're all here for attendance. However, with everything that the record has to offer narratively and sonically, reaching the closer seems to pique a rather jarring experience, one that I can't really seem to wrap my head around. Because now this track is incorporating some devoted experimental experience with heavily distorted crescendos, with also some droning bass in the background. This song is still processed with some traditional pop for sure, but with a new atmosphere this time, one I would say creates a mystery around the song. So I am going to wrap up the video with my feelings on the narrative, but before I do that, I really want to get into my favorite highlights onto the record. One of the teasers that I did enjoy on this list comes from the song Q4, following this quick rise and fall of a summary of author Simone Cadwell, coming off with a more upbeat tune with more happy feeling instrumentals, carrying the weight of the song through the end with more influences of jazz orchestras. The string sections on the song just fill in so much of the tone for the narrative and of course musically. Another teaser that I found really worth mentioning comes from the song Funny Girl, blossoming more and more with the story and sonic beauty into Baroque pop, where we see the process of this person falling in love with a comedian that plays out in this sort of toxic fantasy, playing with more different variants of violins and horns, making this one worth remembering. Then gusting with more beauty and uplifting horizons comes from the song Goodbye Mr. Blue, piercing the narrative with more sadness with Josh mourning the death of his cat, but at the same time it seems kind of weird when he mentions that he wishes the cat would have died sooner, so maybe that his relationship would have been saved. So it's hard to really tell if he's really mourning the death of his cat or the death of his relationship. A lot of the references for these themes come from the record Pure Comedy, which can be run off as an Easter egg of sorts, sonically boosting the emotion with teamwork of acoustic and electric guitars, journeys across a symphony of ambience, delivering marvelous emotion to the soothing, safe-keeping melodies made by Misty. I also wanted to mention there's a little addition of a country circus swing onto the song Only a Fool. I can also see this song making it on a black and white Mickey episode, or just a Disney film from the 60s, or Honestly, any Disney movie now that I think about it. Okay, so now that I feel like I got pretty much every big thought off of my chest, I want to get into more about how I feel about this record. I'm going to conclude that musically, I like the direction that Joss is going for. The traditional pop and jazz maintaining the bulk of the work for the most part is well done, it's well mixed, it's well thought out, and I would also say the songwriting is pretty good for the most part too, and Tillman's performance hardly has a dull moment to it. But what I can't really understand or get over is what the narrative actually means to this album. Song to song, I can't understand what this song really based off its feeling or its story, but this record collectively is just not joined together. The beginning and the ending is just very misleading, making it seem like this is a concept of a certain story, but there's just so many plot holes that I can't really get over, and it's just, you're never on the same page continuing on here. The continuity of the story just isn't here. I think that's gonna bother a lot of people going to this album if you haven't played it yet, and I'm not gonna lie, it did kind of bother me. But I was able to nudge off the negatives for the most part based off the musical excellence that makes its presence for a good portion of the record. I wouldn't say that this is Tillman's finest work, but I would definitely argue against that this record is definitely far off from an atomic bomb, which is how most people are making it seem. I'm gonna give Father John Misty's Chlöe in the Next 20th Century a 73%. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, go ahead and like, share, and comment down below. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, down in the description you'll see all the separate tracklist ratings I have for the album, more videos, and also the links to my social media accounts so you can keep up with me on the daily. I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Dose.